Are you thinking of owning your dream homes? EJ Investment is here for you. Secure our quality bungalows with 2, 3 or 4 bedrooms, or our story buildings 3 or 4 to 5 bedrooms at very affordable prices with flexible payment plans at our Sanyang Seaview Estate, where you can enjoy the cool breeze with modern infrastructure such as tar roads, covered drainage system, modern electrification with street lights, gated entrance with security posts, and social amenities such as gas station, shopping mall, medical clinic, park, schools, children daycare, and a lot more. Our dedicated team of professionals will keep the estate clean at all times, provide security and patrol team within the estate premises, install latest technologies such as CCTV, Wi-Fi, home network installation, solar panel, and power backup system. Also, check out for our additional home facilities and interior design service such as premium tiling, wall plaster, home landscape, fingerprint home lock, and a lot more. Visit our office at Senegambia Kololi Highway and get a free site visit tour, or contact us on 4464838. WhatsApp us on 3259220. Or you can visit our Facebook page or Instagram on EJ Investments. EJ Investments, we are first in properties.
All right.
Honey, did you remind him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But don't you know about Baloo?
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 What is Baloo?
Baloo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baloo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baloo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baloo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baloo, better than sending money.
First of all, we want to use this opportunity on behalf of the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs and the UN Resident Coordinator to welcome all of you to this press conference. Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Mr. Mamburinjai, the Resident Coordinator of the United Nations System in the Gambia, Madam Seraphine Wakana, the Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry, Honorable Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Minister of Youth and Sport, the Honorable Minister of Works and Infrastructure, the Resident Representative of the United Nations Development Programme, Resident Representative of UNICEF, Resident Representative of WHO, Resident Representative of FAO, Resident Representative of UNFPA, the CEO of Gambia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, representative from the Association of Non-Governmental Organizations in the Gambia, UN, members of the UN country team and staff of all UN agencies here present, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, our host today. The agenda will see a statement by the Resident Coordinator of the United Nations System in the Gambia on the launch of the Decade of Action. We'll have a statement by the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs, Honorable Mamburinjai, and then we will have questions and answers. I'll moderate the fourth session, which will see the statement being delivered by the Resident Coordinator and the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs. By way of background, we will all recall that in 2015, world leaders met and adopted a set of goals, the Agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, that will take us to 2030 with very clear set of targets that are supposed to address multitude of deprivations. We have only 1 decade of implementation left. Last year, when member states met at UN headquarters under the aegis of the United Nations Secretary General and the SDG Summit, they all committed to accelerating action in the last decade of the agenda. As a result, we are all here today to witness the launching of that decade of action that should influence the way we do business to make sure that we are able to accelerate implementation and that we are able to attain the goals by 2030. This is a very important thing for all of us to share information with the general population through the media, as well as to catalyze all stakeholders up and above government, the UN system, but also importantly the private sector, civil society, and all other stakeholders. Because it's only together that we can deliver on the Agenda 2030. On that note, I don't want to waste more time, because we have started a little bit late. I now have the honor and pleasure to call on the UN Resident Coordinator, Madam Seraphine Wakana, to deliver her statement. Madam.
Cabinet colleagues, honorable ministers here present, I won't be able to make the list, and we are honored to have a so long list of cabinet ministers, showing that it's an important event that the government is hosting today. Representatives from the Office of the President, other government officials present, and development partners, UN colleagues, the media, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, all protocol duly observed. Let me start by wishing you a happy new year. We are not far from the starting of the year and hope that our partnership and collaboration will be fruitful throughout the year. We are all partners around the SDGs, so let's join our hands and accelerate our work of implementing the SDGs. So on behalf of the UN family, I'm very happy and pleased to be part of this press conference as part of activities to activate the global decade of action in support of the achievements and acceleration of the Sustainable Development Goals. First, I would like to really thank again the government of the Gambia for its strong commitment to the SDGs through the National Development Plan and other sector strategies. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, why do we have the decade of action? The answer is not very complicated. As you are aware, the Sustainable Development Goals adopted by all countries, including the Gambia in 2015, are our shared vision to end poverty, rescue the planet, and build a peaceful world. Over the years, we have seen remarkable progress. Extreme poverty and child mortality rates are falling, and access to energy, education, and to decent work is rising. But hunger in one is rising. Greenhouse gas emissions continue to climb, and the world's most vulnerable continue to be most affected by conflict, inequality, injustice, and climate change. We are far from the world we want. But with only 10 years left to achieve the global goals by the 2030 deadline, there is a risk important SDGs will not be achieved, making it urgent for everybody to step up action to accelerate the implementation of SDGs and their targets. The decade of action calls on government, businesses, civil society, and individuals everywhere to create an unstoppable force to reach the goals by 2030 by mobilizing everyone, everywhere to take action, individually and collectively, locally and globally, demanding urgency and ambition by holding leaders to account, supercharge ideas to solutions by shining a light on success stories and driving sustainable innovation, investments, and technology. We have 10 years to transform our world. Together we can end extreme poverty, win the race against climate change, and conquer injustice and gender inequality. The spirit of human endeavor has demonstrated our shared ability to deliver the extraordinary. It's time to deliver the Sustainable Development Goals for people and for the planet. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the United Nations calls on all countries to speed up the mobilization of resources, draw more ambitions and realistic plans, as well as explore new solutions towards the achievements of the SDGs. We are convinced that we need to do things differently in this decade to achieve different results. Though it is the job of the government and the UN to lead the process, it is the collective interest and contribution of everyone and all stakeholders in making the achievements of SDGs a reality for the Gambia. To this end, you, the media present here, have a critical role to play. You need to give more attention to gains made so far and challenges ahead, while highlighting and celebrating innovations and achievements. When people are better informed, they act with greater energy and precision. As a country, the Gambia has made progress in giving her citizens more access to clean water, sanitation, quality education, and peace. Reflecting this, the fact that extreme poverty in the country declined, and you won't believe it, from nearly 71% in the lead up to the launch of the MDGs in 1998 to 10% at the launch of the SDGs in 2015. This comes from studies and analyses that are being done globally and in comparison with other countries. In so much as this is a cause for celebration, it is also a reminder that much more needs to be done to achieve the SDGs. In so much as this is a cause for celebration, it is also a reminder that much more needs to be done in promoting gender equality, youth empowerment, and addressing climate change. The United Nations, in collaboration with its partners, will continue to support the government's efforts toward the achievement of the SDGs in the next decade. In the following weeks, we will release activities that the UN, led by and in partnership with the government, will embark on ensuring wider public participation in the Decade of Action campaign. I therefore take this opportunity to reiterate our eagerness to expand this partnership and invite you all to take an active role in ensuring that we make attaining the SDGs and reality for all. I thank you all for your kind attention.
I would like to register our appreciation for your presence here. We almost have a cabinet on a very short notice. The UN system and the ministry would like to say a big thank you. Resident Coordinator UN System, Resident Representative United Nations Development Program, heads of various UN agencies here present, CEO GCCI, senior government officials, staff of UN agencies, representatives of the private sector and civil society, members of press, all protocols respectfully observed. In September 2015, the Gambia joined 193 member countries of the United Nations in New York to adopt the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The agenda has 17 goals and serves as a continuum in completing the unfinished business of the Millennium Development Goals that ended in 2015. The adoption of the 2030 Agenda was preceded by intensive consultations at national and international levels. The Gambia actively participated in the formulation of the 2030 Agenda and was among the 19 African countries selected for the UNDG-assisted inclusive national consultations. The national consultations facilitated by a national task force was broad-based and involves government, UN agencies, private sectors, civil society, youth, women, and communities. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, following the adoption of the 2030 Agenda, the Gambia moved quickly to launch the agenda at the national level. A key objective of the launching was to recommend options for mainstreaming the 2030 Agenda in the development planning process and identifying the most viable options for financing SDGs in the Gambia, including public-private partnership and private sector participation. After the change of government in December 2016, the new government formulated a National Development Plan 2018 to 2021. The National Development Plan, through its 8 strategic priorities and 7 critical enablers, mainstream the SDGs. The National Development Plan strongly speaks to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and its overarching goals recognize the importance of inclusive development in line with the principles of leaving no one behind. Our strategies and interventions are also aimed at reducing the gaps that exist between the urban and rural areas. In this regard, investment in rural roads to help improve access to markets and socioeconomic facilities for some of the most vulnerable populations in our country. While government is accelerating the pace of rural electrification, it has also embarked on an ambitious project to provide electricity to schools and health centers in the rural parts of the Gambia that currently have limited access to electricity. These environmentally friendly solar PV interventions will help to improve the quality of education and health in the rural areas. This, among other initiatives, shows the commitment of the government under the leadership of His Excellency President Adama Barrow to accelerate the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, when world leaders met last year during the National Assembly, they took stock of the progress being made in the implementation of the SDGs, but raised concerns that more efforts needs to be exerted if the agenda is going to be achieved. In this regard, the Secretary General called on member states to mobilize for a decade of actions. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this year, which marks the last decade of the implementation of the Agenda 2030, will also see the Gambia present its first voluntary national review, VNR, at the high-level political forum in July at the United Nations. The VNR will also give us the opportunity to document progress registered towards the attainment of the SDGs and the challenges encountered, with a view to accelerating the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. The VNR will draw from the 2019 SDG status, which is also currently underway. The process, coordinated by a multi-stakeholder steering committee, has already started, and consultations have been held with government ministries, departments, and agencies, development partners, private sector, and civil societies. This will be followed by consultations with different stakeholders, including at the community level, to garner inputs, but also to enhance localizing of the Sustainable Development Goals. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to, at this stage, thank the United Nations systems in the Gambia and other development partners for their immense support and collaboration in the implementation of the SDGs. I want to also acknowledge the close partnership of the private sector and civil society in this regard. I want to particularly thank the UN Resident Coordinator and Resident Representative of the United Nations Development Programme for their continued technical and financial support in mainstreaming the Sustainable Development Goals in our National Development Plan, localizing Agenda 2030, among many others. In conclusion, I want to reiterate the government of the Gambia unflinching commitment to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs in the last decade. Our efforts will also include using very innovative approaches to ensure that no one is left behind by mobilizing everyone everywhere. Let me end by emphasizing that we strongly associate ourselves with the Secretary General's initiative and will not relent our drive to attain the Agenda 2030. I thank you all for your kind attention.
Yeah, with the stage of the question and answer session, my colleagues in the media, I think we thank you very much for making it at just short notice. It's full.
I'm here for Chronicle News Agency as well as Voice newspaper. I would like to know, since the Sustainable Development Goal initiative started in this country, how much money has been put into this finance minister, and also discovered about climate change. And then right now, agriculture in rural Gambia, the poor farmers, most of them are not accessing their farmlands due to rules conditions. So I would like to know what initiative, what concrete step is government doing to revitalize the agricultural sector as part of the sustainable development.
Thank you very much.
I think the serious thing is that the presence of almost the cabinet, I think that alone speaks for itself. Just before they come in, I think during my budget presentation, I have justified that it is a pro-poor budget. I think we have invested more in youth, we have invested more in agriculture, we have invested more in education, we have invested more in infrastructure. And you're aware that we have also invested in renewable energy. I think I'll have to allow the Environment Minister, the Agriculture Minister. I was just putting the foundation in place just for you to know that what we have invested, difficult to quantify unless and until we have a trend analysis. But government's direction, including the debt restructuring, it gears towards whatever savings we make from the debt. That savings will definitely be invested in the social sectors. So I'll allow the Environment Minister to come to talk about the greenhouse and later agriculture to talk about.
I think this is an important question where we have climate crisis all over the world. And this is a global agenda that no nation can ignore. As a matter of fact, the government of the Gambia is very conscious of the vulnerability of the Gambia and the entire economy. That is why we have developed a low strategy, a low emission economy strategy that we are working on. And also through the Paris Agreement, we have committed ourselves to our nationally determined contribution to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 44.5% by 2025 and by 45.5% by 2030, which we will see the end of the decade of action. And those of you who were following the events in Madrid this year, Gambia and Morocco are the only two countries out of 197 countries whose NDCs are strong enough to achieve the 1.5 degrees Celsius of the Paris. And I had a lot of sessions, I have a lot of discussions with international media on this. And how do we do this? We're looking at our energy strategy, our energy policy, because we know that greenhouse gas emission is one of the contributors to global warming, and global warming leads to sea level rise. And these are real concerns for the Gambia. As a result, we have an energy policy that says access, but also we have a mix of renewable.
And we have committed ourselves through our energy roadmap to have 50% of our energy from renewables by 2030. And this can help us, and we have practical measures on the ground that we have already registered. One, we have just, the UNDP is here, we have just got approval from the NAMA facility to put 10 megawatts of renewable, one in Farafenye and one in Basse. And also the solar plant in Jambur will also help us to achieve this. But to carve this all through our sub-regional initiative of the OMVG, which is going to be an energy driven from the river, the dams that we are already building, and with this will help us to achieve even more than 50% of the energy requirement of the Gambia coming from renewable. So this is putting the Gambia on a sound footing to achieve those objectives. And also, you talked about agriculture. I mean, there has been, I just want to say what we are doing to support the resilience, building of resilience of our farmers. One, we have also developed the climate policy for the first time in 2017, which was approved by Cabinet. And at the heart of this policy is to build the resilience of the Gambian farmers, to ensure that the effect of climate change is ameliorated on the lives and the livelihood of our farmers. And also, in the process, we have also developed, through the support of the World Bank, through the African Development Bank, we have developed a strategic program for climate resilience. And this is an investment program that is an investment friendly for all investors who are coming into this country to be conscious of the role of climate and environment in building resilience in our economies. So we have all the legal framework, we have the policy that we have set for ourselves to ensure that we deliver the goods by 2030. But also within the LDC group, which Gambia is a member, and we are also an example of 7 countries that is pioneering the LDC Life AR program. And we are also building, in this framework, we are also developing our long-term strategy to zero carbon net emission by 2050. And we have already started work. By the end of this month, we have the IIED, International Institute for Environment and Development in the United Kingdom, who are helping us through the LDC group to develop this long-term strategy. And we are ahead of all the other LDC groups that the Gambia we have showcased at the Madrid COP meeting. So these are the achievements that we have already registered. Thank you.
I tell you that if you provoke this minister to talk about the environment, in the last 3 years, he can challenge any scientist. I'm being serious. I think he knows his work, and we are very, very, very proud as a government to have you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you.
I think I have 3 experts. You see, we have professionals in our cabinet, not to boast, but believe me, we have in our cabinet. You also have our agriculture, who's also been in agriculture for almost 3 decades. Honorable Minister, you want to touch on some of the issues, and then we can come to infrastructure, and just to talk about the roads, the infrastructure, because it's all within the decade of action. Honorable Minister, just
Honorable, thank you very much for organizing this important meeting with UN resident representative. You touch on agriculture. Agriculture is the backbone of this country, because we have almost 70% of our rural people who are engaged in agricultural production, and that is key for economy. So based on that, our ministry, we want to ensure that within 2021, we are self-sufficient in food production, especially rice, because rice is our staple food. Thanks to Ministry of Finance, at the moment, we have almost $7 million project for rice production in CRR North and South and the URR. And we are also yearning for another $29 million project. It's on the pipeline. It will be launched soon. That one also is for rice value chain, from production to the market to the table. That one also is URR and the CRR North and South. Because URR and the CRR North and South, we have this fresh water, whereby you can produce rice year-round, almost 2-3 times in a year. And not only that, we have a small ruminant project also, which is a $26 million project. That one is countrywide. We want to ensure that we are self-sufficient in small ruminant production, because every feast we spend a lot of money outside to look for small ruminant. So we want to stop that. And the other thing we are yearning for is poultry production. We want to ensure that we have enough poultry. At the moment, we have youths who are engaged on poultry production. So based on that, we want to ensure that these chicken legs coming to the country is stopped. So at the moment, we have a lot of projects on the pipeline to ensure that within 2021, we are self-sufficient in food production. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister of Finance, thank you for inviting us. Actually, I was forced to come here because I had so much work on my desk. But anyway, it's a very important meeting, and I would just want to add very little to it, is that we have decided in my ministry that we talk less and do more. What we are doing is to provide access. Somebody mentioned about farmers having access to their land. I mean, this is one of our priorities. And I want to announce that we have just recently completed about 120 kilometers of road in the North Bank called the Lamin Koto Pasimas Road, which has been a dream for the past 40 years. And we have just completed that. Now, the importance of that road is that it's going to open up valuable land resources for farming. And it's going to be complemented by a bridge, which you all know is that we have just completed, also crossing the River Gambia, called the Senegambia Bridge. That is going to increase our connectivity to the region. Now, our region, when we talk about it, we are thinking about 300 million people. It's not only our small Gambia, and that bridge has significance to that population. We are at the verge of engaging in a lot of routes in the urban area as well, especially in the combos. We have secured funds to do about 50 kilometers. And this road that you have just applied to come to this conference, we are about to launch. I mean, it's going to be a 4-lane, and we are going to form a ring that will decongest. I mean, a lot of the urban roads that you are applying now, and it's giving you frustration. We have, you know, there's a lot of things we want to do. And really, that's why I mentioned that I almost refuse to come here, because there's so much that we want to do, I mean, to alleviate poverty. We are very much, we have full visibility of the 17 SDGs. And we are aware that before the SDGs, there were the MDGs. I mean, and then the UN decided that, you know, we have not succeeded fully, so let's come up with another 17. 5 years ago, it was decided, and now we have 10 years left to accomplish that. And we are trying very hard at the level of our ministry, because we are going to provide the hardware, so to speak. That's the only way we think this can be done. Now, we also aware at the level of our ministry that the UN has the big picture. The UN has the intentions, but it's our country that has to achieve this. I mean, it's our SDG, and I think we should. Minister, thank you very much. Can I go now?
No.
Since the question was addressed to me on the SDGs, which SDGs can be achieved by Gambia, I would not respond to it directly, but I just wanted to say that the question is actually what we are about to look at today and the days coming. Because the decade of action is actually saying, let's look at what we are doing and how we can speed up and accelerate and get the maximum of the implementation for the SDGs. But in my speech, I already said that from our analysis, some of the SDGs are already progressing, I spoke about the extreme poverty. You know, Gambia is among the best countries in Africa that are progressing. And if we keep the momentum, we can reach the targets. The other thing is that SDGs are not really standalone goals. They are all interlinked. When you work on education, you improve health, you improve the women. Then you cannot say, let me focus on one SDG and go. When you work on one, you make sure that you are impacting on different SDGs. So and I think for us, for the Gambia, it's a good time to have the VNR coming in so that we may use the results to look at how far we are now. And I think by July, we will have the report and see what have been done and how can we focus on some of the indicators and progress. The other thing is SDGs are only 17, but we have a lot of indicators. They are more than 100. So you cannot just sit and say 1 or 2 SDGs are met. We will have to sit and understand what we are doing. That's why we are going to have a large campaign with all different stakeholders to make sure that they understand what are the SDGs and how we can all have our input in the implementation. It's not only the government. So the question can also come to you and say, you as a journalist, how do you feel about the SDGs and what can you do to help it happen in the Gambia? Those are the objectives that we are trying to face. But a lot of analysis have been done. And from what you heard, I think for the Gambia, there are some key accelerators that we can use. But I'm not going to say we should do only those. But if you focus on some of the areas, we can achieve more and progress more. And those are, they are youth, concentrating on youth promotion. We have our Minister of Youth here. They are trying to do more, but you know that the youth is, when you talk about youth, it's education, it's health, it's again the jobs and whatever. And when we talk about jobs, we also think of private sector, because jobs are not going to be created by the government, which has to be with other stakeholders. And that's how the Decade of Action is more on partnership. Don't sit in a silo and think that somebody is implementing. We have to do things together, but we have to do efficient partnerships. And we need to really sit and discuss. And the other thing is we've implemented the MDGs. We know where we got. We are now under the SDGs. We need to make sure that by 2030, Gambia will be part of those countries to shine and show that we have been able to achieve. And we are hopeful that, and confident that if we join our hands, we can do more. And the UN is just here to call for everybody. We are not supposed to be the lead. The government will be always in the driving seat with our support, with the support of all stakeholders, including civil society, including the private sector, and see how we can do. So today we are not going to it's not a day for evaluation. It's a day for call for action, and we will come back and see it on sectoral level. We are going to be having different stakeholders meetings and discussions to respond to all those questions. But we hope that everybody will join hands and we support the government toward 2030. Thank you very much. I think I forgot one thing on somebody was asking how much money was brought in for the SDGs. I think the reason why he didn't respond is that we haven't had have the evaluation yet, but again, the VNR will focus also on that part. And in the next months, we can say, since 2015, this is what have been put in the process. Because you cannot just talk about results without saying, I had to use this to get to this. So it's not a question, it's not a question of not responding to this, because the figure is not yet there. Thank you.
We're working with the Ministry of Fisheries. We have some fish ponds in Jokadu as well, but because of some technical issues, the first set of fish that were put there could not survive because of the salt level. I mean, we are working on that with the Ministry of Fisheries to ensure that they also have alternative livelihood opportunity. And also in Janjambure, you have seen how we have moved in Tendaba, how we have moved the river, and also we have done some dikes to ensure that saltwater intrusion is arrested. And now, for the first time in 2018, the women were able to cultivate, and we also put a horticultural garden for them. So we are working on that, and to that effect, we are also working with the UNDP for a follow-up project on sea level rise and protection of social and economic assets that we are working on for GCF support. And also we have the GCF right now. My ministry, we are implementing a $25 million project from the GCF to restore 7,000 hectares of forest land that is deforested, but also 3,000 hectares of agricultural land to enable some of these farmers to go back to support. But more importantly, in those intervening communities, we are also establishing natural resource entrepreneurs to ensure that we are not only dealing with wood from the forest, but non-wood products can also be, the value can be enhanced to establish, viable commercial businesses in our communities. Thank you.
Okay, in addition to that, I think I have to thank the finance minister again, because not long ago you approved almost $80 million project from IFAD, and that will take care of North Bank and other regions. In fact, West Coast region and the North Bank, they have their own commodities. That's vegetable production. So women are so empowered on vegetable production in North Bank region and the West Coast region. Thank you very much.
There is a new program called Community Response Program. And this will include infrastructure anywhere we have deficit. If we have water deficit, if we have infrastructure deficit, if we have any deficit, this is a local resource mobilization initiative, and we are working with UNDP. It will be the first time we are responding to the needs of the most vulnerable. So when we talk about any region, there is no region that we, depending on the information we have, the consultancy is already launched, and I think it's almost completed. Wherever there is deficit, in particular, the priority is water. Anywhere we know there is a deficit, we will take our own local resources. We will not have to wait for the donors to come. It is all part of our poverty alleviation program. So I can tell you the blessing we have is that for the next 5 years, the freeze that we have on our debt, these resources will not be used for consumption. We are going to meet the needs of the most vulnerable people in our country. And that is the message President Adam Barrow has been sending all over. During his Meet the People's Tour, we have taken stock of all what the people need. And he is giving us instructions that these are the things that, regardless of region, so we are responding to those needs. I hope the next time we meet, we'll be able to give you, as you asked, the tangible results on all of these initiatives that have been taken by the government of President Adam Barrow. Thank you. When we have this exogenous shock, that is the Thomas Cook, and also delay in rains, we always look at the figures again. So the figure that you're talking about, it was a short time, it was just a couple of weeks. But when we revisited our GDP, we realized that we can still make the 6.2% growth. So we haven't gone below 6% for the last 2 years. So I don't know where you get that figure from. But just for you to know that I have presented a proper budget, and if you look at the figures that we have invested in the social sectors, it's increasing exponentially. I think you go back and look at the figures, and I don't even mind for us to have Q&A in my office, that we will show you evidence that it is a proper budget, and all the initiative that we have taken and the initiative that we intend to take is all targeting the most vulnerable people in our society. Be assured of that.
For responding to our invitation at very short notice. We thank you very much, and we want to assure you that our doors are open as far as interactions on the SDGs are concerned. And as we embark on the biennial process, we will have more media sensitization, and we would want to make sure that our efforts are communicated so that we can accelerate our efforts and attain the SDGs by 2030. On that note, we thank all of you for attending, and we just want to crave your indulgence, since this is very rare that on our way out, we have a photo session to capture the attendance of this very high-profile people. So we thank all of you once again.
In communication, connectivity is everything. We ensure that the links never sleep. Quantities and qualities, all in our data service, providing efficient, reliable voice and data service. We believe if you're not up to speed, then you're going backwards. Communications have to flow as fast as the speed of light. Whatever business you're in, having someone who understands your needs is critical. That is why we just don't offer you technology, we offer you solutions. Enjoy Gamcel's internet broadband anytime, anywhere. Your national operator, Gamcel, Yai Baram.
Musa.
Na.
Ambara talanga ta maso.
Ai kada marso.
Ade faso.
Ayo. Do ni mutu.
Musa bari yin atusila de.
Keme fula atusila munen.
Tulo bantale mano banda.
Bari man sene so funde ni mano bande sa fonje.
Kilo le bota.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam ba.
Bare.
Ah, kodo kiyena ne yuna yamoy.
Min to yona. Mansara. Itu nata la. Yaja. Ngamano sammanang ngatulo samman. Bismillah.
Na nyumano dia ko.
Yalo nyimano wata demen. Jona biro ngayin tawlet. Ngata ko do kama demen. Man façon fula wala beje. Kilo talul tabeje, kilo monni lul tabeje. Hani duuli no beje. Ni tale ko do kama. Ni lefta ko do les ko do ta inaita. Na dia defone si manol sanjalin tulol ni hani nyin fongonye alkawme to abul kawme fokan dirin klebe ni leminato. Ngabo ndeje.
Yuna la kanyul be samana.
Itula kanyul be samana. Yaje.